Yeah, then anybody can. Seven ten, we are back. Number 22. Jim? No. Discussion and action on waiving fees for the proposed building permit for lead clerk survey 293 track 6-A at 1120 Horizon Boulevard. Jim, the motion, if council would, if council wants to approve?
I would say the motion would be, motion to approve the condition that the applicant begin construction order in 2 calendar days.
Anybody could make a motion?
Make a motion to approve with the condition to start construction in 30 days? Is that correct?
30 calendar days.
30 calendar days.
Second.
We have a first and a second?
And we have 2 speakers. Lorenza Freire?
I'd just like to say that I wasn't in the executive session and I don't understand why the motion was made in this fashion. But it is my concern that you have a mechanism in place to generate revenue for the citizens of Socorro, so they don't have to pay more taxes. It is a problem here then. There's a problem not only with the planning department, but also with the commission that is entitled to approve all of these things. There's problems here, and it's obvious. Your audit this evening has shown and reflected the problems, and I don't appreciate that when I am giving 1 minute to speak for somebody else to rebuttal and call me a liar. This evening I am telling you that the auditor reported the financial reports, and I'm concerned. I am very concerned because now you're taking another cut from us by waiving another permit, which means that eventually you're going to increase our taxes. I'd like to find out. I couldn't because it's an executive session. But believe me, you have things in place that are supposed to protect us, the taxpayers, and make sure that the process works. You have a planning department, you have a commission, and you have them that are supposed to tell these people that are coming to apply for these permits to ensure that the permits are adequately right and that everything is approved and that he doesn't pay more than he has to have.
Mrs. Friday,
There's
your time
failures
is up.
here. Thank you very much.
Sergio Jaime? Gabriel Zubia?
Just, do you want to say anything? Because you signed up for the item.
Sorry, yeah. That was what I had signed up further, but again, I just would like the consideration and pointing out that it's not a waiver that I'm asking for. Rest assured the permit was paid. Just consider that the fees were already paid.
Victor Pérez?
No.
Iván Colón Villalobos? Yes. María Reyes? Yes. Alejandro García?
Aye.
Number 9, introducing first reading and calling for public hearing for the proposed rezoning of Block 4, Block 1, Will Meet subdivision at 11071 Socorro Road from C1 light commercial to C2 general commercial plus A
René?
plus
You can't hear him.
Oh, you can't hear me? Okay. Conditional use permit for beer and wine. Item 9. Is public comment? Okay. Nobody signed up? No? It's cool?
It's an
Okay.
introduction.
Good evening. They're asking for a conditional use permit because they want to establish a liquor store at 11071 Socorro Road, and they want to rezone it from C1 to C2. It's this property right here, right next to there's a funeral home. And they're not gonna modify the building, they're just gonna paint the building, and that's it. The building has already been approved by the Historical Landmark Commission. And it's gonna be a drive-through liquor store. It's not gonna be, according to the applicant, people are not gonna be able to walk into the store, it's just a drive-through. So they're just gonna have a window on the side. And the field investigation says that we found out that it complies with a requirement from a public school. The minimum distance required is 1,500 feet from a public school. This property exceeds the minimum required distance. It's 3,987 from Campestre Elementary School. And it also exceeds the distance from a church. It's 4,408 feet from San Felipe de Jesus Catholic Church. There are no hospitals nearby. And the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval with the condition that no other business be allowed but a liquor store.
Mr. Perez?
So then it has to be rezoned to a C2 in order to sell liquor?
Yes, sir. This is how the structure looks right now. And they've been cleaning. They're not gonna remove the wall that's on the side or anything. They're just gonna open up the space so cars can drive around for the drive-through. And this is gonna be the window where they're gonna be serving the liquor or selling the liquor. They're gonna be driving around the back. They're not gonna use the little storage in the back, but to store their stuff.
Okay.
Have the resident, I'm sorry,
Ms. Villalobos?
have the residents been notified?
Yes, ma'am. We had a public hearing already with the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Anyone else?
Could we ask what the outcome was? May I ask what the outcome was with the public, from the residents?
The public hearing for, when we mailed out the letters, the public hearing was held on June the 6th.
And nobody showed up?
Nobody complained, nobody showed up, there were no people against the project.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Number 10.
No, we need a motion.
Oh, we need a motion, okay.
A motion.
To have the hearing.
A motion to approve? Mrs. Reyes.
I'm sorry, it's a motion to approve with the conditions that were stipulated by the planning and zoning, that no other business be allowed by a liquor store.
Do I have a second?
Second. Victor Pérez?
Aye.
Iván Colom Villalobos?
Yes.
María Reyes?
Yes.
And Alejandro Garcia?
Aye. Number 10, introduction, first reading, and calling for a public hearing for a proposed amendment to the City of Socorro Master Plan and rezoning of Tract 4, C11K, Block 3, Socorro Grant at 900 Horizon Boulevard from an A1 agricultural to a C2 general commercial for an auto truck and tractor trailer sales business. Mhm.
This property is located at 900 Horizon. And we took some pictures this morning of the property. They are asking for it to be rezoned from A1 agricultural to C2 general commercial. It was presented in the last meeting for reconsideration. Originally, the applicant was asking for M1 light industrial, and he gave us a letter asking for a different zoning classification. Instead of the M1, now they're asking for C2 for a business, and this is what's on the property right now.
Motion
The-
to, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended the general commercial instead of the industrial because it's along the major arterial road along Horizon. And they were asking for the properties along Horizon Street to be commercial instead of industrial.
And it'd be C2, right?
Yes, correct, yes.
I'll go ahead and make a
Mm.
motion at this time to.
Ms.
Also,
Mr. Perez,
yes.
before you make the motion, Ms. Reyes has a question.
Is this is the same owner that said he's only wants to have this business there for about a year and then was thinking of selling it afterwards? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if we give him a C2 and we restrict him to just what he wants to put in here, which is what, a truck,
Mhm.
excuse me, just a moment, a auto truck and tractor trailer sales, what's not to change the new owner that comes in to put whatever he wants? Would he still need to come before you?
It depends
Because
on,
he's already a C1.
C2.
it will be C2, but the only thing they would be allowed to do that would be everything that's under that zoning classification. They were, the neighbors were concerned about him or them installing a mechanic shop or junkyard. That's not allowed under the general commercial. When they're gonna get ready to establish a business there, they gotta go through our department, and then we investigate what kind of business they're gonna establish there. And we do make sure that they comply with the zoning district.
But they have a M1, correct?
They were asking for
They were
M1, it
asking
was,
for an M1.
right now they
But
have,
on an M1, they could make a salvage yard, correct?
yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
So what, yes, so from an M1 to a C2, it's preferably to go to a C2.
Correct, yes.
Mr. Perez, and then followed by Ms. Villalobos.
At this point, do we have any C2s along Horizon Boulevard?
Most of the properties on Horizon are C2, yes, sir.
Ms. Villalobos?
My question is, I know that when it was approved that we would come back later with some conditions. If we approve it as a C2, does that still apply? Will we still have to apply the conditions?
I believe so, Jim, I think they do have the authority to apply conditions if they approve the C2.
We still have the right to put the conditions on it? Okay.
And that's, if you guys would want to consider it, you guys could put the same conditions that were on the prior council, meeting that we had for this issue. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
That I keep forgetting. That if council does decide to move on this and give them the zone change or make it a C2, you can also add and put it in there where the prior conditions apply to this.
I don't think we approved it with conditions, but we did say that we would approve it and then later on
Or
talk
you-
about the conditions, right?
Or
Something
you
like
can just say, you know what, this is it, and you can't do anything else. As well, you can do that.
Okay. And one
Yes,
more
Ms.
question.
Villalobos.
Why this sudden change from one month to another?
Because the reason for that is because the Planning and Zoning Commission expressed their, and the neighbors around the property were expressing their concerns about having a junkyard or a tire shop along that area. The Planning and Zoning Commission decided, well, because it's the entrance to the city, we would actually have something nice, something rather than a junkyard. And that's why the industrial zoning was denied.
Alrighty, thank you.
So what were the previous conditions?
I'm sorry?
What were the conditions that we had discussed?
I believe the conditions that you wanted to imply on this property were that no junkyards or
Body shop.
mechanic shops would be allowed on the property, but other than just retail.
And those things were, under C2, they could not be undertaken, right?
A junkyard, they cannot be in a C2. A mechanic, they can, but they need a conditional use permit for that.
And they would have to come back because we have, in the background, it states that there will be no body shops, no mechanic shops. And no junkyards.
In other words, approving the C2 commercial right now would not allow them to perform mechanic work unless they have a conditional use permit.
Yeah. I mean, we can use that.
Right.
Ms. Villalobos?
And I know that the resident that lives to the left of it, right, was very concerned about whether it was gonna be a chain link fence or a rock wall, you know, because she does not want to hear the noise or at least reduce the noise, because she's a resident that lives right next door. And of course, we all know that 18-wheelers make a lot of noise. And so my impression was when we voted last time on this was that we were gonna come back with some conditions. And so I was hoping that would be one of the conditions.
One of the requirements, when you do a zoning change on a property, if there's a residential property next to it, they are obligated to put a solid fence or a wall to separate it from the commercial zone.
Well, it doesn't say it here, so,
No, but it's in our.
No, it's in the ordinance, it's in the Munich
Yes.
code.
and so they get a copy of the ordinance? Or
Yes.
how do they know?
We do inform them. Once the zoning has been
Okay.
changed, we do inform them about
I understand.
the things they need to comply with.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, Ms. Reyes?
I just have one more. I know that it's on the other side of Patty Joe, and these are the residents that are very concerned about it. So being that you're going to have a tractor trailer sales, then that wall will go up in order, because it is part of the ordinance, so it will not affect the residents of Patty Joe?
It has to go up according to the city's code, yes.
Okay, so,
Not in front of the property, because the highest they can go in front of the property if a wall is it's only 3 feet. That would be the highest they can go.
3.
3 feet.
okay. So if they're gonna have all these trailer sales, then they're gonna have to be in the back, they're gonna come into the front, so you're still gonna have all that noise that's gonna affect the residents on Patty Joe, is that correct?
Originally, the applicant had mentioned that they wanted to establish a trucking or a truck sales company, and then later they said, maybe we can just use it for retail instead of like a shopping center, like the one that's right across the street from it.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, guys? So we can go. Okay. Can I have a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the C2 designation, with the condition that there are no junkyards, mechanic or body shops be allowed within the property.
Do I have a
Second.
motion? Okay. We have a motion and a second?
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Iván Colón Villalobos,
Yes.
María Reyes, Alejandro García,
Aye.
Number 11, introduction and first reading and calling for a public hearing. Because I feel an echo. For an ordinance amending the city of Socorro Muni Code Division 2 Truck Route Section 42.99 to include a portion of Stockyard and Oliver Reed Road.
that your Wolfman Jack?
It's because you can't, I feel like I'm distorted. Sorry, guys.
With this proposed ordinance, we want to include a portion of Reed Road. Reed Road and a portion of Stockyard to be considered a truck route. The reason for that is because there are some businesses that are grandfathered on this, inside this area. And this is the area that we need to include. And the problem that they have right there, there's a sign in the corner that says that no trucks are allowed on this portion of the street. This area already had a trucking company when it was annexed in 2002. So this business is grandfathered, all these businesses here, and they're concerned that they're gonna get in trouble with the law because they're driving on the portion that is not considered a truck route. The existing truck route is this road over here. This is Stockyard and this is Alisa. That's already part of the designated truck routes. And the reason we want to include Reed Road, because Reed Road continues all the way to Robin. And over here on this portion of Robin and Reed Road, there's already trucking companies and trucks drive around this portion of the streets. In the future, if the city wants to connect Reed, that will be helpful in case something happens to the Arroyo. That will be an alternate route for the trucks to exit this subdivision instead of having them drive through the residential zones. That's why we wanted to include all of this Reed Road and this portion of Stockyard only. Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
What about the parking for all these that are grandfathered or parking on the streets and everywhere else?
Right now, we are looking into that.
Is that a different issue other than addressing and making
I think so.
grandfathered into it?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am. Those are other violations that we're looking into.
And, whatever happened to Robin Road, is that not part of that little area there also?
Well, there's like I said, there's a lot of trucking businesses in there, and most of those properties are grandfathered. Unfortunately, we can't tell them to remove their vehicles from there because it was a business that was already established when the city annexed their properties. But we, like I said, we did notice some violations on the public right-of-way, and we are addressing them at the moment.
Okay. Could I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Iván Colón Villalobos,
Yes.
María Reyes. And Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Public hearing of ordinance 411 for the proposed rezoning of Lot 2, Block 1, Villa Moreno subdivision at 1188 Horizon Boulevard from a C1 light commercial to a C2 general commercial for commercial business.
It's a public hearing.
Oh, okay.
Should we include 13, 12 and 13?
No,
need
it's
to
just
open.
one by one. Public hearing is now open. Public comment,
7:33.
7:33 with 25 seconds. If anybody would wish to speak on this item, now is the time.
We cannot add 12 and 13 together?
No.
They're added here.
Because it's the same item, but it's
Mm-hmm.
different
Because-
things.
Okay, got it.
Nobody? Nobody. Public hearing is now closed. 7:33. Number 13, second reading and adoption of ordinance 411 for the proposed rezoning of Lot 2, Block 1, Villa Moreno subdivision at 1188 Horizon Boulevard from a C1 light commercial to a C2 general commercial for commercial business.
This is the second reading and adoption of ordinance 411. I would like to make a correction on the address. It's 188 Horizon. And this is located at Lot 2, Block 1, Villa Morena subdivision. The petitioner is asking to rezone from C1 light commercial to C2 general commercial for a commercial business. The planning and zoning recommends approval with the condition that no beer and wine shall be sold until a conditional use permit is required. The address, it was read incorrectly.
Oh. Oh, my bad, yeah,
It's not 1188, it's 188.
188.
Yes.
Okay. Why are they, I'm sorry,
Ms.
why are
Villas?
they changing from a C1 to a C2?
The reason is because the petitioner mentioned that he was trying to establish a restaurant and then in the future maybe sell beer and wine. But he also expressed that he doesn't have the financial capacity to pay for the conditional use permit and the rezoning at the same time. So at the moment, they're asking for the rezoning, and then in the future, they'll come back and ask for a conditional use permit for beer and wine. That was the reason why the condition was established by the Planning and Zoning Commission,
Okay.
that no
So-
beer and wine shall be sold until they get the conditional use permit.
So it's a restaurant right now?
At the moment, they're gonna be selling food. I think they have a food truck right now at the moment,
Oh, okay.
but in the future, they do wanna add additional food vendors and beer and,
So it's gonna be food truck with a truck selling beer at a food vending place?
that's something that the applicant was saying that they're considering for the future.
The street view?
Oh, it's, admin is right there next to us. Oh,
This is from the front.
So they want a conditional permit for the future?
No, sir, at the moment, they're asking for the rezoning to C2.
Okay.
I have an issue with liability in selling beer from a truck.
I'm sorry, I didn't,
Yeah. I have I have an issue thinking, what kind of liability, would the city face with somebody selling beer from a truck, and what kind of control do we have over that?
and that's not the issue. The issue is just to give him a C2, and then when he wants to apply for that, he would still have
Right.
to come back over here. So basically, that doesn't matter at the moment, and it applies at this moment.
What else could he, huh? Okay.
I mean, all we're doing is, if we're gonna allow him to do the restaurant, that's basically it.
Or no, just change the
Yeah,
zoning.
change the zoning so he can do the, and then in the future, if he decides to
He
do
has to
that,
come through here?
then it'll be a different issue.
Right.
Right, right, and then, yes. And then staff will make that recommendation to us. Okay, so can I
I'll
have,
go ahead and make a motion to approve the change from C1 to C2, and that the condition that no beer and wine shall be sold or consumed on premises until the conditional use permit is acquired.
Second.
Is acquired.
okay, motion is made, we have a second?
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Iván Colom Villalobos,
Yes.
María Reyes, and Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Number 14, public hearing of ordinance 412, amending chapter 46, zoning to amend various sections thereunder pertaining to abolishment of R3 high-density residential districts and penalty being provided in section 46-20-3 of Socorro City Code. It is 7:39, public hearing is now open. See? Does anybody want to talk about this issue? Anyone? Bueller? No, just kidding. I just wanted to say that once. Okay, let's give 'em a minute, just in case. Yeah, I'm gonna close it. That's 7:40.
You have to wait a minute.
Just in case.
Okay.
It is now 7:40. Public meeting is closed. Number 15, second reading and adoption of ordinance 412, amending chapter 46, zoning to amend various sections thereunder pertaining to abolishment of R3 high-density residential district, the penalty being provided in section 46-20-3 of the Socorro City Code.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Ms.,
Can we get a presentation?
okay, but we have a motion and a second by Mr. Pettis. Ms. Reyes and Mr. Pettis.
With ordinance 412, it's only to abolish the R3 zoning district.
Mhm. Okay,
That's it?
that's it.
Alrighty.
So,
Thank
motion
you.
was made?
Victor Pettis?
Aye.
Yes.
Want to come to be aware, this applies in the future, I think, go back and erase our leads that are existing. And with one exception, we have a contract, and I forget how it was, I think it's in the deed, I think it's in some kind of settlement. But when we were acquiring land for the Old Lake Tank Road project, we agreed with one of the landowners
Yes.
that they could use what's called R3 with certain conditions that don't make it R3. It's like R2 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It was R3 but with enlarged lots,
With the-
larger frontage. So just be aware, there's still something, you may see something in the future despite this it's still called R3, but it's because it reached a one-time agreement with the developer so that he would know and contribute his land at less than market rates.
Yes, and that was something that we did before, Ms. Villalobos, Ms. Reyes, and, Mr. Garcia were here. What we did is that we told him that we didn't want it R3s on that section, so he says, look, what if I make them a little bit bigger, but not entirely R2s? And the reason why we didn't spend $1.5 million that we allocated was because we came into an agreement and said, look, I will donate the land, but I want this in return. And therefore, that's what we did.
And we have this in writing.
Yes, we do.
Okay. That's all that matters.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm. And we save money.
Beyond that, don't be afraid of trickling in. There's something called vesting.
Mhm.
There's, once they acquire the land, but certainly by the time they apply for it, so if there's anybody who's pending, has already had an application to change to R3,
Mhm.
they get treated under the old law, R3 still exists. You still have discretion about whether or not to grant it or not, but all I'm saying is, for instance, if there's a preliminary plat out there that has not been finalized, it's still under construction, it is R3, you'll see the final plat come, and even though this passed, we will still see R3.
Mhm.
Just, you know,
I have another question.
Ms. Villalobos?
Do we have, any outstanding R3s out there that were applied for?
The only one,
I'm sorry, after we decided to amend the ordinance and now?
no, the only one that is outstanding is the one that Jim mentioned.
Okay.
And that's it's a big subdivision that's coming up, next to Old Waco Tanks.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Could I have a motion?
Motion was made.
Mhm.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Iván Colom Villalobos,
Yes.
María Reyes,
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye. Number 16, discussion and action on an order rescheduling the uniforms election to be held in the city of Socorro, Texas on Tuesday, November 7th, 2017, for the purpose of electing city council members, representative districts 1, 2, and 3.
Motion to approve.
Okay? Mr. Perez, followed by Ms. Reyes. Do we have any speakers?
We had two speakers, Lorenza Fraire and Sergio Jaime.
Okay.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Iván Colón Villalobos,
Yes.
María Reyes, and Alejandro Garcia.
Aye. Number 17, discussion and action to, on approving the unaudited financial report for April 2017. Do I have a motion? Ms. Reyes? Ms. Reyes?
Can we table this till after we have our financial workshop?
There'll be another one by then.
Because it's on the 25th every month anyway.
Yeah, we have May already done, so we could table May instead of this one.
Okay, this is.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay, this is very long.
Mhm.
It's just giving you a status of what we've spent, what's coming to the city, what we're planning on coming in, and it's just, we could have a workshop earlier.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay. Could I have a motion? Motion is by Ms. Reyes. May I have a second, please?
Who made the motion?
Ms. Reyes, followed by?
Motion to approve.
To approve, okay.
Second.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Iván Colón Villalobos,
Just for those that are still here, thank you. I never vote on these. I always say no because these are a lot of numbers. Somebody's giving me a report, and I know you're good, but I don't have my hands in it all the time, so I'm gonna say no.
María Reyes. Yes. Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
19, discussion and action to award bid 2017-005 roofing services to Costco's,
Number 18, Renee.
Number 18.
number what?
18.
Oh, I skipped. My bad. Okay, here we go. Discussion and action to authorize City of Socorro to amend engineering services contract with CSA Design Group to provide additional engineering services in order to complete additional 240 linear feet of construction on the Sparks Arroyo under the CDBG grant number 7215479.
No, he's not, ma'am. He's on vacation. And this grant is actually an amendment to the Sparks Arroyo. We had budgeted for 690 linear feet. However, there was plenty of funds available to do 932 linear feet, which was approved. And there is no money that we have to add or anything. It's just to approve the amendment to add those other linear feet to the arroyo.
Ms. Reyes?
Well, by adding the 240
Linear
linear
feet.
feet, will this complete the project?
Yes, ma'am. That it'll complete that grant, the whole funding.
Okay.
Okay.
How was it that we didn't,
Later.
get it all at one time?
Yes, that was.
Because we didn't
Because
have it-
Mr. Leone provided us numbers that were incorrect at that point. We did not have an engineer firm that provided us correct. Yes, ma'am.
Mhm. Yes, so now we're just gonna go and, whatever was left, this is what it is. We're just gonna just amend it so that we can, Ms. Villalobos?
I could see why our constituents that are always reviewing these things could see why they're so upset because, we allocate funds, our own people are out there measuring, and then they come back and, no, we need more. And so we don't look good. We look like we're part of some type of corruption by doing this. And so therefore, I'm glad that you asked that question and that you were able to answer it. So there's no question of why we're allocating extra funds.
Well, we don't want to lose the funds, and that is the
Yeah,
reason why we asked for the amendment, because you don't want to lose on those linear feet that belong to the city of Socorro. So, that's why. And that's why we hired an engineer firm to provide us with more
So,
proper
just for
numbers.
clarification,
Yes,
the additional linear feet did not impact the amount of funding.
correct. In other words, we did the 690 linear feet, and there was still a chunk of change waiting
So it's
that was
like-
gonna be sent
it's
back
like
to the
fighting
state.
that last big French fry.
Correct,
That's a
so
good analogy.
instead of saying,
Good
take your money
analogy.
back, we said, can we do an amendment and finish our funds and add that concrete lining?
And it's good that we're gonna do this because, I mean, how is it gonna look that we don't use the whole funding when we actually went to Marfa and talked to the Council of Governments for these funds?
Well, and it
it was a
affects us
pool,
for future,
and it
for
was a
future
pool-
grants if we don't use the
it
whole
was a pool
funding.
of their funds that they gave to us. You know, I mean, we actually go and pitch and say, hey, we took pictures, documentation, you see what I mean? And they gave us their funds, and just for this, so that we can use their funds. So,
I have several questions.
Yellows.
This is the same engineering company that did the first half that was
Correct.
not finished. And, the reason I'm doing this, the reason I'm asking this is because I don't want it to be a question. How do we, who do we go to show us this is what we were approved? I mean, physically show us this is what was approved, and this is why we're extending it. Does that make sense?
No.
Show me.
Show you what?
Show me that this was, originally, these are how many feet were originally?
690?
Show me the 690 feet and the additional 200 and something.
Yes, we can go back to the minutes and provide you that information.
No, physically, I want to see it.
You can go to the Sparks Arroyo and you'll see
And measure it
the linear
myself.
feet. No, I mean, you can see the concrete lining there. I mean, that's inspected by the federal government, it's inspected by, so if you want to visually see it,
Thank you. It's inspected by,
it's federal grants. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any federal funding, they monitor it very well. You have to pay certified payroll. You have to, I mean, there is no corruption happening in the federal government because we would be fined and probably not receive any funding at all. But visually, it's
and this is the
Right
same
there.
company that was originally hired.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Motion to approve item number 18.
Second.
And we have two speakers, Lorenza Fraire and Sergio Jaime. Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Iván Colón Villalobos,
Yes.
María Reyes, Alejandro García.
Aye.
Number 19, discussion and action to award bid 2017-005 roofing services for Costco Constructors.
Hello. Good afternoon, Council. We are requesting to go ahead and award the bid for the roofing. This is just to open up negotiations with the contractor. The qualifying bid was Casco Structures. They are actually very well qualified. They do work with federal projects. They have done the Border Patrol roofing. They've actually done structures for the Texas Tech Towers along I-10. They've done the Pebble Hills branch, the El Paso Main Library. They've also done the GECU headquarters. In terms of other federal projects, they've done the El Paso International Airport. They've also done Canutillo, New Mexico High School, the NMSU School for the Deaf, as well as the Paso del Norte Port of Entry Bridge renovations.
Thank you. Can I have a motion? Or any questions? Ms. Reyes?
Did we only get the two bids, or did we get any more than the
We only received 2 bids.
two?
And this company does have experience in historical renovation, which was one of my priorities since our buildings at Revisa are going to get serviced. They have done the Jeff Davis County Courthouse, where they've worked with the Dome, and they've locally done Manhattan Heights Historical District projects as well.
Okay. Any other questions? No?
Motion to approve.
Second.
No, that's why we're going to do negotiations. We're going to do negotiations, and we'll come back with a contract.
So you pick a company and you're gonna now negotiate to what the total price for the 9 projects that you have listed out here.
Correct.
I'm sorry, one more. So, I'm sorry, we still have to do negotiations?
Yes,
Correct.
because we first go out for requests for qualifications to see if they're qualified to do the type of service we're requesting.
once we've identified that company can do that type of, has all the qualifications that we're requesting, then we go out for proposal, for them to provide us a number that we can bring back to council.
Which means if we don't like what
Exactly,
comes
you
back-
can always say no, and we're gonna deny. Mhm, yes.
Because that, I don't think we'll get discounts like that. That's what I'm saying. Because they're saying, we pick you and you can charge whatever you
No,
want.
no, it still has to come back and it has to be reasonable.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
motion was made.
I second it.
Mr. Pettis was,
And we had two speakers, Lorenza Fraire and Sergio Jaime. Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Iván Colom Villalobos,
Yes.
María Reyes, and Alejandro Garcia.
aye. Thank you, Mr. Pettis. To write down. Number 20, discussion and action on authorizing Chief of Police to sign an MOU with the Socorro Independent School District Police Department for the purpose of authorizing the Socorro Police Department to make entries into the NCIC, National Crime Information Center, and the TCIC, Texas Crime Information Center. So, SISD Police Department does not have NCIC and TCIC access and needs to have our agency make the entries for them. The MOU is a recurring MOU. No, he's not here. Oh, yeah, he's here. I didn't see him.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of City Council. I'm Carlos Maldonado, your Chief of Police. This is an MOU that we typically sign every year for them. It's simply to assist them in fulfilling their mission. So our communication specialists, if they have a need to enter any data or information into these different types of programs, they'll ask for our assistance and they'll go ahead and enter it into the program.
Ms. Reyes?
I understand that if there are any policies that have been violated that you're aware of, when it comes to tracking, it says here the 24-hour agency may reinstate service following such instances as upon receipt of satisfactory assurances that such violations have been corrected. So, a violation has had to have occurred in order for it to be corrected. Have we ever had any violations?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any more questions?
Motion to approve.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you elaborate on the question?
They have the power, they have the right that whenever something is not done right, that they can suspend it. And my question to him is, did they ever find any violations where they had to implement and get a satisfactory, for that violation to be corrected satisfactory? And he said they've never had any violations.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll repeat my motion. It's a motion to approve.
Second.
And we had two speakers, Lorenza Fraire and Sergio Jaime. Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Iván Colom Villalobos,
Yes.
María Reyes,
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Number 21, discussion and action on final subdivision plat approval for Dairyland subdivision replat N, being a replat of Lot 1 and 2, Block 4, Dairyland subdivision of El Paso County, Texas.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We had two speakers, Lorenza Fraire and Sergio Jaime. Victor Pérez,
I would
Iván
ask,
Colom Villalobos.
hold on.
Mr.
I would ask that if, because there's some stipulations here as far as staff recommendation, I would ask if Mrs. Reyes would reword her motion to include
The staff recommendation.
Okay, make a motion to approve, final subdivision, plat, the approval for the Dairyland subdivision replat N, being a replat of lots 1 and 2, block for Gilman subdivision of Kansas, Texas. This is basically a formality since we do have our ETJ.
Ms. Villalobos?
Just for the public that's still here, for the last 2 months, we've been receiving these from the same entities, and we've
County.
and we've approved, because they're in our jurisdiction, they are sent to us for approval or denial, and we have approved them, and this is just an extension of what we've already approved in the past, correct? Well, right, it's just
the
a
same subdivision but different.
different lots, yes, same subdivision, different lots.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Iván Colom Villalobos,
Yes,
María Reyes,
Yes.
and Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Number 23, discussion and action to approve preliminary plats of Walls Estates Replat A, being a replat of Lot 3, Block 1, Wall Estates at 10772 Socorro Road, splitting Lot 3 into two lots and one for the use of a cell tower.
cell tower, wow.
This property is located at 10772 Socorro Road. It's right at the edge of the city limit. They want to split this lot into two parcels. They want to use a portion of this lot, this little area here, to establish a cell tower. The cell tower design has already been approved by the Historical Landmark Commission. And this is all of Lot 3. They're just gonna split it in half, or I'm sorry, in a portion of it. And this is the first step because the reason for the lot split is because they need to separate the portion that's gonna be used for the cell tower and leave the residential zone alone. Because in the future, they're gonna come back, maybe in about a month, they're gonna come back and then they're gonna rezone it to special use for the cell tower. So that was the reason why they need to split the property and then just rezone a portion of this to special use. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval contingent upon the following. The owner shall build a cinder block wall with stucco around the cell tower, and it needs to comply with the historical design criteria. That was one of the conditions that were asked from the Historical Landmark Commission. And also, a chain link fence shall be installed on the gates only. The cell tower that they're gonna build there is gonna look like a pine tree. It's not gonna be a monopole, it's gonna be camouflage.
Okay. Ms. Reyes?
Had a company come in and ask for that cell tower to be put up, or this lady's personal?
It's a company that came from Phoenix. They're doing a project for a cell tower company. Unfortunately, they couldn't make it to the meeting today because they're out of town. But they did ask us to present the preliminary. This is just the preliminary lot split. We're still gonna come back and present to you the final lot split. plat.
And when we say cell tower, we're saying phones, we're saying,
Yes, ma'am.
that's what it, okay.
Yes,
Nothing else, but,
yes, ma'am.
okay.
So right now, they're just presenting to you the preliminary lot split.
Okay. Any more questions? Can I have a motion?
We don't have a motion.
No, I said, can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the preliminary plats.
Second.
And we had two speakers, Lorenza Fraire and Sergio Jaime. Victor Pérez,
Aye.
Iván Colom Villalobos,
Yes.
María Reyes, and Alejandro Garcia.
Aye. 25, Discussion and action to award Four Rivers equipment for the purchase of a 2017 Deere 410 backhoe with the warranty and service contract in the amount of up to $125,844.02 for the Park and Public Works Department.
On this one, I am gonna ask if we can delete or postpone? Okay, delete it, just because my summary reads, I wanna make a comparison between Wagner Caterpillar and John Deere. And my summary reads that way, however, I did not place it in the discussion and action, so I have to delete it so I can present it at our next council meeting.
Okay.
Motion to delete?
Second.
Motion is made.
And we have two speakers, Lorenza Fraire and Sergio Jaime. Victor Perez,
Aye.
Iván Colombia.
Yes. Yes.
Maria Reyes,
Yes.
Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Number 26, discussion and action to award Border International for a purchase of 3 vacuum trucks in the amount of $434,850 for the Parks and Public Works Department.
Okay, for this purchase, we did go out to bid in February. We did receive, it was two different quotes, and they scored, hold on, we had Freightliner Austin scored 86.75, and Border International scored 91.25. On our last budget meeting for last fiscal year, we were allocated funding to purchase this equipment, and we allocated $230,000. They did request 3 vacuum trucks, so my recommendation is to purchase 2 at the amount of $280,672.
How much is it for one? Half of that.
One of the trucks is 100, hold on. Vacuums, 140,336
Okay.
is for one.
And any questions?
And the vacuum trucks are the ones that when it rains and it's flooding and we have all constituents calling, you know, where's the truck, these will go out and, you know, there's designated areas, and we try, when there's school, that's where our main focus is for the children, and then we approach other areas.
Ms.
But we
Villalobos?
only have 1 and 2 water tanks right now.
I'm sorry, I had a couple of questions. So we have one truck, an existing truck right now that we're using,
Mhm.
okay? And then we have 2 trucks that carry the water,
The water tanks,
the water
yes.
tanks, okay. Out of the year, how many months do we use that truck, or how many times out of the year do we use these trucks?
Every time it rains, and sometimes it rains more than others.
And I'm not done with questions, but
So pretty much what we have in our inventory is one Freightliner vacuum truck, which is the big one that you guys see most often. We have another Freightliner that is just a water truck to spray. And we have a small another 2,000-gallon water truck. Those 2 water trucks are not intended to pick up water. Though we don't have anything else, we use them we just add a external pump, and we use them for that matter. These, using them in this way actually diminishes their longevity, because we pick up dirt and trash as we suck up all this water. That rots out the tanks. So when actually we need to water, you know, certain properties that we have, or when we're doing road work, we ended up leaving a mess wherever we go, or we have to make extra trips to take the water we actually need because of the leaking of the tanks. Granted, these tanks are really expensive to maintain and they're really expensive to replace. So these water trucks are intended for this use. There have some pumps that, well, the particular model we got are 3,000-gallon pumps and trucks, so they fill up in more or less 5 minutes and discharge in around 7 minutes. They're gravity flushed. They get used every time it rains. Obviously, right now, with the little rain we had, that's in a couple of weeks, it took us 4 days to pick up that water. And that wasn't a big rain at all. And that was using that big water truck, the 2 other tanks, and 2 small tanks for 500 gallons. So a big, decent rain, if it rains, let's say, 4 hours, God forbid, it will take us up to 2 weeks to pick up that water what we have.
And so this truck is bigger than what we have right now?
They're the same, that they're exactly the, well, they're brand new models of what we have. Obviously, I don't know if you recall back when we did the amendment to the operator position, we required a CDL because of the reason that we were expecting to get these trucks which are CDL operated. Not that anybody can drive these machines as well.
And the reason we don't rent is?
Because there are liabilities in the rentals. These things, I mean, just like right now we have an issue with one of our pumps. The pump itself is $5,000. When we buy the rentals, if anything goes wrong, that's gonna come out of pocket. And we do have other uses for these trucks as we go. I mean, whenever we move water from the ponding area right there, or the pond at Bulldog, we use that water truck. I mean, when we water Place Park, now that we have Mato Rosas that it's gonna need irrigation, I mean, that's different use. I mean, we try to do the most of what we have. Obviously, adding these things to our fleet will help us, or at least that's the main
The
effect, that we want to increase our productivity and our efficiency when we deal with rain.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the purchase of 2 vacuum trucks.
And they need to say the amount.
I would recite the.
And in the amount of $280,672.
As said by city manager.
Reyes?
Okay, I think I did ask Mr. Castellano how much, since this is gonna come out of the CO to the 2014, and I think you told me that we have 6 million?
4.
I think I said much less than that, but
Let's see,
about 4.1 million.
about 4.1 million, so that's gonna come out of it.
No, ma'am, the 4.1 million is money that we hadn't allocated. This money had been allocated from, so after this purchase, you'll still have the 4.
Yeah, you still have the other money.
I'm sorry, come again, after what?
Okay, so we allocated funding last year for our capital project to purchase these equipment. Okay, so what the budget you're receiving this year is for what you have left, meaning that we haven't spent it yet. So this was money that I was already allocated to the 9 point, yes.
It's already allocated out of the
Correct.
2014 CO
Yes.
that we have, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
With this allocation that we're doing, because I understand all the other purchases are from the 2014.
Seals, yes. And they were all, and if you look at your board, that's pretty much where we planned how we were gonna spend our COs.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion?
Motion was made.
In a second?
Second.
So we have a speaker, Lorenza Paredes.
I just have to say that the capital project that you all approved when Mr. Norfleet was here as city manager, I don't believe that these 4 trucks were in there at that point. One of the biggest concerns that we had was that some of this money should have been used for the preparation of getting a place where the water could stop and be there. I don't agree with the purchases of these because these are items that are not going to be utilized for a long time. It would be wise just to rent the trucks and have them done. One of the things that we have a problem in Socorro is inventory. Inventory is one of the crucial issues that in all of your audits you will see. You don't have an inventory process, your inventory, and you have a lot of things that are gonna go missing. This is a lot of money, and I hate to see it being wasted. I don't believe that you should purchase all of these trucks, and I hope that you do purchase one, maybe. But this is too much, and I disagree with the process that's being taken. Please review the capital project that was approved by Mr. Norfleet, because it was a 5-year plan. You gotta understand the reserve fund method. The reserve fund method is for you to build assets based on your capital projects. Your capital projects is something that has to be under a 5-year plan. You can't be changing it to modify your needs when the need was determined at the time that you did the capital project plan. And Norfleet did a 5-year plan, and I don't believe that the 5 years.
Mrs.
was
Friday,
up.
your time is up.
Thank you.
And we had another speaker, Sergio Jaime. Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos,
Yes.
Maria Reyes, Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.
Could we take a 10-minute recess? Can I have a motion?
Motion to recess for 10 minutes?
Okay. First and second.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos,
What's the purpose of the recess? I'm sorry.
Good,
Okay. Yes.
Maria Reyes, Alejandro Garcia.
Aye.